count their burdens. Hi, my name is Dwayne Sue Jardinico, and welcome back to the Wellness Revival series. Today we are going to talk about letter O. So if you have been following this series, we have now formed a word, create. So let's recap a little bit. We've talked about letter C, which stands for choice, R stands for rest, E, environment, A, activity, T, trust. What's the next? I stands for interpersonal relationship, and today we are going to talk about O, which stands for outlook. So if we are going to form the word, we are going to be forming creation. So this is the last part of the creation series. No, not the last part. I mean second to the last part. So our next one would be letter N. So yes, I'm telling you that ahead of time because it's the most common one, but it's also very important, and nutrition. But let's focus on letter O today, which is outlook. How important is outlook in life, and how important really is outlook to your well-being? But first, probably let's talk about outlook. Outlook is how you perceive the world around you, how you see things, your perspective, how you see even the environment or your situation, how you see it in your own way, and how you see it affects how you deal with it. Do you remember the saying or the quote that says, watch your thoughts, they become words. Watch your words, they become actions. Watch your actions, they become habits. Watch your habits, they become character. Watch your character, because it will become a destiny. And I know that really, although that's self-explanatory, but sometimes, we forget how it affects our health as well. For example, today it's kind of cold and I'm kind of really running late and doing this walk around the neighborhood. Usually I do it lunchtime, or especially in the winter time, I do it lunchtime, after lunchtime or lunch break, or when it's sunny. Now, while it's still sunny, it's getting chilly. But I know that I need to do it. And so I told myself that I can do it. It's a good day outside, so I can exercise, because I need to exercise and walk outside today. So that's an example of outlook and how it affects your being. It motivates you to do something when you see things positively. And one might think that this is really simple. Think of the positive things, be always grateful in everything. But you're probably, and even myself, think about this all the time. Yes, it's a simple thing to say, but it's not that easy to really do it. It's easy to remember the negative and bad things than the positive things. That's why I think the Bible or God left us a recommendation or an advice or a counsel to think on the positive things, because oftentimes it's really not easy to forget the bad things or the challenges and the trials that happens to us every day. The Bible talks a lot about outlook, and it is translated into hope. There's a lot of verses in the Bible that talks about hope. Who is the source of hope, and how do we gain hope? And one of those chapters, especially in Jeremiah, you could find a lot of thoughts and words of wisdom about hope and God's messages and in God's word, especially in Jeremiah 29, chapter 29, and Jeremiah chapter 17. So when you get a chance, look those up. Who is the source of hope? It's God. It's Jesus Christ. So when things get rough every day, or we face challenges, we tend to look at just the bad effects of it or the consequences. But sometimes we forget that in all things, there's positive and negative. And sometimes focusing on the good part of it or on the positive side of it can help us to do things better and help us not to be so stressed out or not to be sad, and to help us really have a positive emotion and to have a positive outlook in life. And you probably noticed this as well. And people around you, those people who are optimistic, they tend to have more friends. And those people who are optimistic, they tend to be healthier than the ones who are so negative, who are so pessimistic, who are so grumpy, right? And remember, social connection and social connectedness is very important, right? So if your outlook is always negative, then you really won't attract friends. You really won't attract people, because who wants to associate with people who are always grumpy? Although we can't say that we all have the same outlook in life. There are obviously reasons that so there are days that sometimes we get so moody and we get so anxious and we get so angry or grumpy, but that's not to say that we have to be perfect, because we live in a very sinful world, and we live in a world that changes all the time. Especially these days, there's just so many madness, or there's just so many unrest, that it's so easy to be discouraged. It's so easy to think about the negative things. And this is an important topic that's also very timely, because if you live in America, we just celebrated or commemorated Thanksgiving Day last week. So my question is, do you only remember to be thankful during Thanksgiving? And that's why I also decided to talk about being grateful or gratitude topic after Thanksgiving. It's kind of like, to remind all of us that every day there's always something to be thankful for. And I think also that's why the Bible also reminded us to be grateful, because God knows that in this world the ride is not gonna be easy, but rest assured that He is gonna guide us and He's gonna be with us, or if we have our hope in Him, waiting for His second coming, and He is there for us all the time. So let's recap about gratitude. We all know that being grateful or practicing gratitude, and you're probably familiar with gratitude journal, people who encourage you to always be thankful. But why is that? How does that affect our health in a physiological level? Because sometimes it makes more sense if we understand how it really affects us in a way, our health. How does positive outlook in life or practicing gratitude or being grateful really affect our health in a physiological level? Or how does it affect our body? Because sometimes, like I mentioned, sometimes it's easier to understand when we know how it's affecting our body. And yes, being happy or being positive all the time can really evoke positive emotions, and having positive emotions affect your health. When we think of the positive things, it changes our brain function. So the hippocampus, the frontal lobe, and it releases certain hormone called endorphins. And we are probably familiar with endorphins already by now, but if you haven't, endorphins are the happy hormones, or that's like the happy pill of the body. That's why you probably heard eating chocolates, because it releases endorphins. But anyway, it gets released in our body when we think of the positive things, if we're happy, if we are being grateful, and that hormone alone helps us to lower our cortisol level. Cortisol is also the hormone that causes you to get stressed, and cortisol is a hormone that impacts a lot of other functions in the body, like your cholesterol level, your blood pressure, your sympathetic system. So it's amazing once we understand how God created our bodies, that is so intertwined of how we think and how we perceive the world. around us. And there's this quote that I always love. You know, when the world is so bad, remember always that the world only changes if your perspective does. So it means that doesn't matter how bad the world gets or how bad the things around us can get, but if we always have our eyes focused on Jesus, if we have that hope that burns within our hearts, that we have something to look forward to. There's things after this. There's things beyond. It's kind of like being excited when you're going to travel or going somewhere. To illustrate the concept of positive outlook more, I would like to tell you about a story that happened to me and my husband a couple years ago. So that was 2018. We joined an outdoor professional group, and we were climbing the Half Dome at Yosemite National Park in California. So that day we had to wake up early, like 2 a.m. in the morning, and apparently there was kind of some miscommunication about preparation, and so there were a lot of people who really thought that it was that easy, and a lot of people also got hurt along the way because it was such a big group. But I just can't forget what their leader said. He said, it could be worse. And he explained why that was his motto, or that was his slogan. That, even though things can go bad, always remember there's always good in it. And saying that it could be worse means that it helps you have that hope that there's always something positive that will come out of it, that there's always something good that's still left, so and there's lessons can be taught in every circumstances or every situation. So really what happened to us, like there were people who got lost, and there were people who also fainted, no fatality, so that was the blessing. And we also learned a lot of lessons from that trip. So if we look at the bad things, if we think of the bad things about from that trip, we could say, they were not really being careful. They were so negligent. They could have done it better. But instead, the leader decided to focus on the things that are good and the positive. And that kind of helped us all to be reminded to have a different outlook, because that kind of it helped the whole group to be, instead of being having negative emotions, having conflict. Instead, it helped us to support each other, to help each other, to encourage each other, and to pray for each other more than anything else. And so that's also a lesson that I learned, that whenever we encounter any problems in our lives, or in our group, in our circle, in our community, that instead of, that my takeaway for this topic today is to focus on the positive, to be optimistic about it, and instead of pointing at someone or blaming someone, is to encourage and support each other and pray for each other, because we all need it, especially this time. So I hope that we will practice gratitude, being grateful, having that positive outlook, not just during Thanksgiving or not just during November, but every day in our lives, and to be reminded that there is hope for us, that Jesus is coming soon, my friends. And we are now living at a time and day and age that times are really so unpredictable, but let's be grateful that we are still alive and we still have this hope. So I'll see you next time for our final series on nutrition.